Welcome back to another video from the Debate Room podcast. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be recapping a lot of these playoff games, a lot of these series. Some of them are already decided pretty much. Others are 2-2. So a lot of basketball still left to be played, but there's been a lot of playoff basketball since we last recorded. So we're going to try to recap as much as we can today because a lot of entertaining stuff has happened. I think we thought this playoff round would be very chalk, and it has been pretty much far from that. I mean, the Nuggets are down on the ropes, the Rockets are down on the ropes, the Pistons are about to be upset. So it has been a very, 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 very entertaining start to the first round of the playoffs. And we got to get credit. I mean, Adam Silver, man. He does what he did. Let me stop. But now people always talking about like NFL playoffs are better. A lot of like NBA playoffs. I mean, unmatched. They've been like the league has had so much parity over the last few years, and I'm glad that this playoff round wasn't chalk as we expected it to be. So before we get into it, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video. If your team is in the playoffs, what's your mood with where they are right now? Leave that in the comments. Let me know. And then follow us on our social media platforms to be updated on when we drop videos. We're going to start with, I think, one of the more shocking rounds of the playoffs, one of the most shocking matchups so far. Everybody on this panel here picked the Pistons to win the series. They were an overwhelming favorite coming to the series, obviously, as the 1 seed, going up against the Magic as the 8 seed, but they found themselves down 3-1 last night after dropping game 4 on the road against the Magic in a very, very ugly basketball game. It was very low scoring. It was not a lot of offense. Defense was, I guess, if you're a fan of defense, this game was amazing. We had Paolo at like 37 true shooting percentage, Suggs at like 18 true shooting percentage. So both teams were pretty bad offensively. K had 9 turnovers, I think. But the Magic, as they have the series so far, have found ways to win a game despite their offense being terrible. I think, if I remember correctly, they're a top 5 worst playoff offense ever, and Detroit is right behind them. So both of these offenses have been historically bad, and yet it's still been an entertaining series. So I'm gonna start with Q. How did the Magic get to this 3-1 lead, and how they're on the verge of upsetting the Pistons? And then we'll talk about I guess we'll start talking about the offseason for the Pistons, because I don't think any of us think. Well, we'll talk about their potential of winning the series still. Let's get into it. How did the Magic get this 3-1 lead?
I mean, it's not like the craziest analysis, but the Magic, they're just more talented overall, starting 5-wise, even like down to the 7th man than the Pistons. Like, yes, you got Cade, and you can say Cade is the best player of both teams, but after that, it's pretty much like 4 Magic players before you get back to the next Piston. That's already a wash. Coming into the season, this wasn't supposed to be a 1-8. This is more like a 4-5. So in a 4-5 matchup, there's no I wouldn't call it no real upsets, because they're just supposed to be close in teams, and these teams were supposed to be close. It's just obviously through the season things happen. Pistons with a 1 seed, Magic dealing with turmoil and things like that, which happens pretty much every season between cohesion and injuries and not playing together and things like that. Like, they just didn't meet the expectations. But as you can see, like on the floor, their 5 pretty much matches up better than the Pistons 5, and they've just been out talenting them pretty much the whole way, along with Detroit's offensive infrastructure just not being good. Cade has a lot on his plate, which is like understandable, but he's also not playing well. So it's a whole lot of things. And Duran is just not like playoff viable, as we can see. Great for 82 games. Obviously in the playoffs, it's not showing up, and it's looking worse for him due to the whole, we ain't really got to go into that. So yeah, this is just 2 teams that were close together, that should have been close together in standings, and then they're just showing their mettle.
KD, you actually predicted the Magic to win the series. Why did you do so? And your thoughts on why your prediction has been true to this point?
Yeah, it really just comes down to one-way versus two-way players. And that this has been a thing that we've just seen constantly occur in the playoffs and from regular season to playoffs. You see all the time teams will have great regular season runs, like kind of out of nowhere. We saw it like, the Kings in 2023. They exploded, ended up like the 3rd seed, but one-way players do not translate to the playoffs the way that they work in the regular season. It's a completely different ballgame. And the Pistons are chock full of one-way players, and that's just the reality. You can't Asar Thompson, one-way player. Duncan Robinson, one-way player. Jalen Duren, playing like a zero-way player, if we being honest. He ain't been good on either end. So it's like Tobias Harris, one-way player. Like going to the bench, Kevin Huerter, one-way player. Like these guys, they're all one-way players outside like Beef Stew, I guess, when he's hitting his shots. But it's just Cade is the only guy who's really two-way compared to the Magic, where the entire Magic starting 5 is somewhat two-way. Like they're not one-way players. Like Bane, maybe you could consider one-way, but the rest of the starting 5, none of them are one-way players. Like and that's just, I think, what it comes down to in terms of there's a gap between these teams.
Hello?
No, Paolo is not a one-way player like in the playoffs, even when he's locked in on defense. I wonder how many stocks he's averaging this series. It's probably a lot.
His defense has been pretty good, yeah.
But he's definitely not a one-way player. At least he hasn't been in this series. I don't think he is. Like in regular season, he'll have games like that, but no, not when he's locked in. And I think that's just what it comes down to. And talent-wise, like we know the Magic are not really an 8 seed. They've been injured all season long. Like that's not, and they're injured again. It's not exaggeration. All season long they've been injured. So them finishing in the 8 seed is much like they're not a normal 8 seed. Then to consider them that is just it's asinine. The same way the Pistons are not a normal 1 seed. Like yeah, they won 60 games, but the East is garbage. It's very much they won 60 games and they're the 1 seed because they have a lot of guys who can play hard for 48 minutes and will defend hard and be physical, and that wins you games in the regular season. And they got a coach that will lead them doing that. But come playoff time, that's not enough to win games. And your coach has to be able to scheme X's and O's. You can't have guys get played off the floor, whether that's either because they can't guard or because they can't pass the ball, score the ball, and that's just what Detroit's kind of full of. If it wasn't this series, they would have lost next series. This was not a team that was built for like a sustained playoff run. And that's why when we did the pod on the trade deadline, they were my biggest loser.
I agree with a lot of what you guys said, and I also want to add, I think that the Magic are just pretty much a perfect matchup for a team like this. Detroit thrives off just being like a lot more physical, a lot more athletic, bigger than most teams, and being able to turn teams over and stuff like that. But the Magic are able to match their size. They match it really well. The Pistons have more players you can go and attack on offense. Honestly, like Paolo has relentlessly attacked. Like Dennis Jenkins, he's relentlessly attacked Duncan Robinson.
He's attacked him, but that first game, he was frying Tobias. Right?
Yeah, they don't have he hasn't been great this series as a scorer, but I think he's been pretty good as a passer in the series. I think they've overreacted.
He's been great as a passer. Like some of the kick out passes he's made and the corner skip passes he's made, and Magic are knocking him down. Like I got to look and see what his potential assists are, but they're not shooting well, which is what you'd expect.
I think some of that is part of Detroit's scheme to pack the paint and allow those 3-point shots to be shot because the Magic can't make shots. But he's making the right decision, I think, more time than not the series. But I think this is one of their worst nightmare matchups from a talent, athleticism, and physicality standpoint. The Magic are pretty much beating Detroit at their own game. They're winning the turnover battle. They're winning the rebounding battle. They're just a lot more physical. I think they've been a better coach team this series, especially considering the fact that Mosley was literally talking about his job was already out the door. Like his job was already up before this playoff run, and this might literally save his job. But they're I think they're a deeper team. Like they can go to like just be having Franz and Bane as like creators. Like when Cade is off the floor, there's pretty much no hope for this offense a lot of the time, especially if they're not forcing turnovers. And Jalen Duren isn't being able to carry bench lineups like he was in the regular season at least against bad teams. So when Paolo's off the floor, they can go to Franz, they can go to Bane. Bane has stepped up over the last 2 games. Like the Pistons just don't have that. And I kind of want to shift over to like a broader sense, like going into the future, because I do think the series is over. I don't think they can beat this team 3 times. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I just don't feel like they can beat this team 3 times. It's too much variant.
It's too physical of a series to win 3 straight.
Yeah, I agree. But I think this team, they clearly lack secondary ball handling, secondary creation, any type of shooting. They don't run an advanced offensive scheme whatsoever. They lack a lot for a team that's trying to be a contender, and I do not think they're set up well in the future to have a contending team with some of the weaknesses that are present in the players that are a part of this young core. So I want to speak from like a broader sense here, right? I don't think they should be rushing to trade Asor or trade Jalen Duren whatsoever. But those 2 players unquestionably present issues, especially together in the playoff series. The later you get in the playoffs, those 2, while they're on the floor at the same time, are going to present issues. I think it is incredibly difficult and flat out rare for a team to be a championship caliber team with a non-big who cannot space the floor whatsoever. I love Asor. He's an incredibly impactful player. He is the reason why their defense is so elite, primarily. But he cannot, as presently, like if he's not going to space the floor at all, he cannot be a starter on a team that is trying to win a championship. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even if you have that's exacerbated and that's heightened if you have a center that also cannot space the floor. That is just a bad combination. It's a terrible combination. Even if you had some of the best offensive minds in basketball calling your offense, they're still going to run into issues in high leverage playoff situations when you have a player that a team can just ignore as a shooter the whole game. That is a big reason why Jalen Duren has not been able to get his game off in this series, because on a lot of his catches, they just double him and ignore Asar. A lot of times when Cade's trying to get him the ball in the pick and roll, you got Jalen Suggs roaming and picking off passes and disrupting the flow of the offense. So while Asar is incredibly beneficial for this team, I think that unless he improves as a jump shooter, it's going to be very difficult to have him as a starter if your goal is to be contending for championships. And I think that should be every team's goal, especially Detroit. Jalen Duren, his issue is that I think for any team that's trying to compete for a championship, your second best offensive player should not be strictly a play finisher. He should not be strictly a play finisher. Like the Lakers got away with that with Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis was not strictly a play finisher. We know this. He can actually create for himself, even if it's not always optimal. Jalen Duren is a play finisher that thrives on just being more physical than his opponent, and he has not been able to do that against Wendell Carter whatsoever. So that's one of his issues as well. I'm not saying trade any one of these players. I just think that your ceiling is capped when you have those 2 players in your starting lineup if you're trying to compete for a championship. Now, Cade can't go unscathed from this. I'm still not sold that Cade is a championship level engine. Yes, the Pistons spacing sucks. Yes, he doesn't have a secondary ball handler. I agree with that, and I think it's detrimental to his game. And he has a lot more on his plate than he should have. But Cade has historically struggled with turnovers. all the way back to Oklahoma State. This is not anything new. Trying to run him as like this heliocentric offensive engine I don't think it's going to work regardless of the teammate quality. I just don't. His handle is not elite. He doesn't have elite burst, and he's not a great three-point shooter. Those are not great combinations to have as an offense engine. So he needs to prove that he can be the engine of a championship level team. Detroit needs to improve the quality of secondary creation, two-way players, and shooting around him. And I think they need to address, like, one day they're going to have to address the Ausar-Duren conundrum, because that's not going anywhere, personally. So those are my thoughts broadly and on why this series is where it's at. I think we got to give a lot of credit to Orlando, because like 2 weeks ago, we thought that series was over. They were losing to the Celtics without any of their players. Paulo played terrible, and then they win the play-in game. Now they're up 3-1 with a chance to honestly go to the ECF. If the Raptors win a series, I'm picking Orlando to go to the ECF, probably. Not gonna lie. I don't think that's gonna happen, but who knows? And their season can go from very, very disappointing to ECF very quickly, if Toronto wins the series. And honestly, with how Cleveland plays, I can't even just be like, oh yeah, they're a surefire thing to win the series. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm doing all that. Do we have any other thoughts on this series?
I think you covered it.
Okay.
It's over, and this is in all honesty probably a blessing in disguise for Detroit as a franchise. It's a blessing in disguise that Jalen Duren has played like shit, because paying him, he was likely going to make All NBA and would have probably been eligible for a Supermax, and paying him anything close to a Supermax would have been disastrous, like for the long-term outlook of the franchise. You now know, like it was already clear, like to those of us who watch Pistons and people who understand basketball, you knew that like a Sar Duren tandem, Ron Holland being your number 5, your lottery pick from a few years ago, being in the rotation, we knew that this was not conducive to winning playoff basketball. But them winning 60 games, like on surface, it's hard to say like, yo, this isn't like successful. This isn't going to work. You needed to see this happen in the playoffs, so that way the team actually makes changes and stuff actually gets done. I don't have faith in the general manager. I have never had faith since he was first brought on in some of his initial moves. But I don't know. Well, we'll see if they go into the summer and they don't make serious not serious adjustments to the roster, but actually go out and get what's needed. And that's number one, a secondary ball handler who can score, can shoot. Like I know Latif on Twitter, you mentioned Kyrie Irving. I think that's like just an obvious go get him type of guy. Other guys like, Booker has been floated around, his salary, but that could be another option. If they don't get that, and then you got to address the lack of two-way talent on the roster. That has to be something like that it has to get addressed. You can't go into another playoff series with a bunch of one-way players. It just doesn't work. So if they don't address those in this offseason, then Trajan, he's got to go.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's a disappointing end to the season, but you did win 60 games. They are still super young, so I guess I can hear not making like any rash decisions. But I generally do think that their team is capped with Ausar and Duren. If Ausar doesn't like significantly improve as a jump shooter, if Jalen Duren
that's on, it's just not happening.
If Jalen Duren doesn't significantly improve as a rim protector, if Jalen Duren like doesn't improve as a 3-point shooter or something like that, like you have two non-spacing bigs basically on the floor. It's not gonna work, bro. I'm sorry. Like, and some Detroit fans are not gonna like to hear that, but I think it is the reality. Like, you don't have an actual model for this to ever working in the NBA. Like, if people, I posted about that and someone said like Draymond Green, who's is a little center, and literally has Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson with him. So it's like those guys are not walking through the door. So you can't play those players. I'm sorry.
And Draymond's not even a good example because like even before they got Kevin Durant, once they got Kevin Durant, I mean that's like it's completely out the window. But even before they got KD, Draymond in 2016 took and made threes. Like it's especially given back then, like the number of threes that were taken by bigs, he would have been considered one of the best shooting bigs in the league. So he's not even a good example.
All right. Denver took game 5. They were down 3-1. Anthony Edwards goes out. Nas Reed goes out in this game. And also Dante DiVincenzo, I think, tears his Achilles. So praise up to him, and hopefully he can recover really well. But now that, 3 of the Timberwolves top players are out, we got to see what Nas Reed, his status. Denver is pretty much, I think, in the driver's seat to take this series and come back to the series down 3-1. What are the chances that Denver comes back in the series? Do you think that Minnesota has any chance without Ant, without Dante, and without potentially Nas Reed to win a series? Let's discuss that. And I guess we can also talk about, because there's been a lot of conversations about what this means for Jokic's legacy, that he's played poorly in this series, and can he like recoup some of that, in the eyes of the community if they come back down 3-1? Katie, I'll start with you since I started with you last segment. Talk to me about the chances of Denver coming back from the end series, and then Minnesota as well, like closing the series in game 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Denver has to be the favorites. I think they are the betting favorites to win the series. It's even though they're down 3-2, it's you just kind of have to throw it away. It's can Minnesota beat Denver once before Denver beats them twice? And I just don't see that. Not with the injuries they have. Not without Anthony Edwards, losing Dante. Nas Reed went out. It took a Ayo Dosunmu 40-plus ball to essentially win a game without Ant. And you also have to understand, like, the nuances behind that. That's not there is no game planning for that because Anthony Edwards was playing that game. He got hurt in that game. Your game plan going into that game is focus on Anthony Edwards. So, yeah, they lost that game because Ayo went crazy. But every game after that, the game plan shifts. The game plan is no longer, our game plan was to control for Anthony Edwards. It's now they don't have Ants. We just don't let these other guys beat us. Like we make Ayo Dosunmu beat us in terms of like not helping, like making him just kind of ISO and slanting defense at other guys, slant the defense at Randall. Like you make these adjustments that weren't there before Ant was hurt that are now part of the the scheme. And there's just no way Minnesota does not have the talent to overcome that at all. And even without Aaron Gordon, without Peyton Watson, there's just too much of a talent gap. And it's unfortunate because this was not a series Denver they don't deserve to win this series at all. Like this should have been Jokic's like stain on his resume. Pretty much every all-time greats have it. This should have been it, like getting gentlemen swept in the first round by a lower seed when you played horribly. But instead,
not losing 7 in round 2 after being up 30.
I don't think that's because that was one game. Like that one game, sure, yeah. But this was a whole series. He was terrible. Like outside of, I guess, this last night's game, he's been awful. And so it really should have been like this was the series where it's like, man, you went and got gentlemen swept, and it's your fault. Like you were a main contributor, and this was in the first round. But they're gonna come back, and they don't deserve it. I think the outlooks for them are pretty good in terms of like what they can do playoff wise after this, because he's going to see Wemby, and Wemby is not Gobert. Like don't get me wrong, Wemby is a better defender than Gobert, but he's not better than Gobert at guarding Jokic because there's just a physical size weight mismatch there, and we've seen it manifest in every single matchup. And so if they can get Aaron Gordon back, they can get Peyton Watson back. I think that Denver has a strong chance of winning that series. But it's unfortunate for Minnesota, man, because this was theirs. Like they had thoroughly beaten Denver, and the injuries are going to cost them the series.
In terms of like the Minnesota Timberwolves chance of winning, like I give them like the slightest of chances because just off like math, they got to win one game and they're going to be at home. So it's like maybe.
Randall,
Huh?
do something. Come on, Randall. Like,
I'm not gonna like shut the door on that. Minnesota, I mean the Nuggets. Jokic got gifted a series. If they do come out of this series, which they should, gifted second round, whatever. But yeah, it was tough for Ant, tough for Dante DiVincenzo. Like they clearly have their number, and they're like they were built to beat them. They can beat them. I don't like sometimes it's like when you build a team to be a certain team, does that like stop you from winning a championship? But like we clearly know that they match up well with this team and they pretty much give them a fight every single time. In terms of Denver, in terms of Jokic, like in legacy talks and things like that, when the results sometimes like at some point like results have to matter and like he's not getting it done. You could contextualize every single thing to like save face for anybody. And Jokic gets that a lot. Like, I get it, he's 3-time MVP, but like, we talking about only made it out the second round twice. And it's been in bad fashion, and he gets the injury knocks and things like that. But like you said earlier, every all-time great or whatever the case may be has these things. Like, you just got to overcome them. Either you do, you don't. You still get the slander. But we can't keep like every time you fail, quote unquote, you can't just like, but he the best at this or whatever the case may be when he be failing to show it. Like after if they lose a series or whatever the case may be, we'll lose in the next round. We just watched this fool get ate by Rudy Gobert. Like they're probably still gonna go into next year and say he's the best player in the league and this and that. They're like the results got to start skewing these the takes on these players because he's just really living on a legacy that's like isn't too like solid, so to speak, from my point of view.
I think that the only way that Jokic can recover from how bad the series was for him, especially when Ant, especially when Minnesota was more healthy, is a trip to the finals. Because he's been flat out bad in this series, and they're probably going to come back from down 3-1, but I don't think anyone's going to care about that when we saw what this team was doing to the Nuggets when they were more healthy. That's not really going to like phase anybody outside of Denver. People in Denver and Denver fans will like parade that and celebrate that and add that as a notch to Jokic's legacy. But anybody that is being like serious and real and not biased knows that like this series would have been over if Ant stayed healthy. And to be honest, it might still be over even if Ant isn't healthy. The Timberwolves need one game of home court shooting variance and home court like energy to win a series. Julius Randle, come on, dog. You can't get one game, like one game. Aaron Gordon even out. It's not even out there. Like you got to do something. Like Julius, like 30 plus. Even if you lose, come on, seriously. But anyways, so I think that there has been a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? People been using it a lot lately.
Informative?
Huh? No, not before. They've been using it a lot lately too. People have been rewriting history a lot on like Jokic's career lately. But
revisionist history.
Revisionist history, yeah. People have been using revisionist history to talk about Jokic's legacy over the past few seasons. But when you actually do look back at his like playoff runs, the offense he hasn't sustained all-time great offense. Yeah, shout out. He used the wrong numbers, but his point was right. I would say like I think even I have jumped the gun a lot in terms of how I discuss Jokic, and other people have jumped the gun a lot in terms of how we discuss Jokic in comparison to other all-time greats. When he does not have the resume to match up to that. He does not have the playoff translation to match up to these other all-time greats who were leading insanely great offenses in the postseason. I think Jokic's highest relative opponent adjusted offensive rating in the playoffs is like 7.3. Shaq has offenses a lot of offenses higher than that. Kobe has offenses higher than that. Steph, LeBron, Michael, obviously, these guys have performed. Their offenses that they led have performed much better than the ones that Jokic have led. Yes, he has the PRA. Yes, he individually stays efficient most of the time, but his passing takes a tremendous drop off in the playoffs because Jokic's passing, his interior passing, what he's really good at, like hitting cutters and stuff like that, hitting people out of the short roll, it relies on defenses being undisciplined and making mistakes in the regular season, which those defenses are locked in. Those defenses are scheming against your strengths for a 7-game series. So his passing takes a dip. His three-point shot has fell off every year, basically, outside of 2023. So he's not really like a stretch big, and teams are very comfortable leaving him open from three in a lot of these series. And in back-to-back years, he has ran into matchups against the Clippers. He wasn't great against Zubac. Against the Thunder, he was not great in that series. And in this series against Rudy, he has not been great. So 3 straight series of him struggling offensively, not only individually, but the Nuggets offense struggling as well. So he has to meet these standards if he wants to be in these conversations. People talk about him like he is the offensive GOAT. People talk about him like people have literally said he could end up as the best player ever. And his actual production, impact, results has not matched that in the postseason whatsoever, no matter how great of a regular season player that he is. And he got a guy going back to back in his era. So, there's that as well.
I knew the last 2 days of this Jokic peaks, like slight slander and talking. I knew it was something behind it. Like I just knew, and I knew it was gonna get here, but I just wanted to let it fester. And we finally got to it. 32 minutes, and it became positive SGA propaganda for somebody who isn't even a fan. So he says.
I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I think that, and people have been, try to also say like people are acting like Jokic is not great or whatever. Like he's great. You just have to hold him to these standards. Jamal Murray, the playoff riser, has not been great in the playoffs in like 2-3 years. He's not been great in this series either. Like it's he's injured, but like he struggled with Minnesota's physicality like for a very long time. This is not like new. He struggled last year with OKC's physicality as well. So more broadly speaking, I don't think the Nuggets are going to win the championship this year. I do think it's fair to assume their championship window is closed. We just talked about one-way players. They have a lot of one-way players as well on this roster. Jokic's defense has been terrible this season and in the playoffs. Not to mention, we talk about his offense. He has multiple years of terrible defense in the playoffs as well, where he is tanking their defense, especially with the rim protection. So want to give a lot of credit to Minnesota for even getting to this point, because I definitely thought they were going to lose the series. They probably still are, but if they would have been healthy, they would have definitely won this series. So shout out them. I think that they know how to get to the conference finals at least. They just need to retool and try to make some moves on the margins. I think the Rob Dillingham debacle was terrible. Now, and they have they
got something positive out of it.
Yeah, they got Ayo DeSumo, so I guess. But
it was still, they traded what, 2 firsts? Yeah,
I mean, first swap, I believe.
Yeah, like, and then it's like a 2030 first or something. That's like franchise crippling. It's so bad.
I also want to give flowers to Rudy Gobert, the infamous playoff dropper, infamous playoff defense translation dropper. Is having one of the greatest defensive. He's doing one of the, I think personally, one of the greatest defensive feats maybe we've ever seen. Holding the best player in the league allegedly.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
He's locking up one of the best players in NBA history.
Bro, you gotta go back and look what Hakeem was doing in like 94, 95. Going from like David Robinson to Barkley to Ewing like that to Shaq in 95. Like, no.
Did I say it was the greatest defensive thing ever? No, I said it's I'm going to say it's very, very impressive what Rudy has done in this series against Jokic, especially.
You were just saying that Jokic hasn't really like performed well in the playoffs the past like 3 series. So I mean, how impressive is it given that?
I think that he's been personally more responsible for that than anybody prior. Even Zubac, who did play really well against him, I think they were receiving more help. He's just been pretty much like one-on-one locking up Jokic for a lot of this stuff. And Rudy, I've said this already. Rudy is one of the most disrespected stars in NBA history. And yes, I said star. This is a guy that peaked as a top 20 player in the sport. He was the most important piece of those Utah Jazz teams. I don't care what nobody says. The numbers support it. They
didn't do anything. So it's like that's where it's really just kind of like, what does it matter if the team doesn't amount to success? Like,
he's been arguably
if you're the most important player for a failure of a team, that's not like a good thing.
I think that there are sound arguments that he's been the most important player for the Timberwolves throughout this span as well. I honestly do think that.
But even again, the Timberwolves, yes, they have. Don't get me wrong. They've beaten Denver. They've shown that they're better than Denver. They've shown that they're better than the Lakers last season, the Suns. They have, like, when it comes to facing teams with rim protection, like it's never been successful. Dallas smoked them out. OKC smoked them out.
That's somebody else's problem, honestly.
It was also Cat. Like, it's multiple guys, but I mean, part of that just is like you're paying Rudy all this money for one side of the ball. So I mean, if your offense starts to stagnate, you can't expect anything from your $40 million player, your center, because he's just a one-way player. So then that's
one day we're gonna respect space setting offense rebounder, bro. One day we're gonna respect it.
Crazy.
But I think I'm glad that Rudy is having this series because now people are starting to give him his flowers and really realize how he's been dominant as a defender for a very long time now. He is aging like fine wine defensively. He's one of the most impressive athletes in the sport, I believe, because of his ability to stay on the floor. He is he's pretty mobile for his size as well. He doesn't get a lot of credit for that. I think he's pretty mobile for his size.
He's actually lucky that they're not going to make it to the next round because it all would have went out the window as soon as you saw him getting spaced out, having to guard Wemby on the perimeter, and his impact is just gone because he's not able to protect the rim, and that's the biggest limitation.
But yeah, I think that's enough about that series. We'll see how it plays out. I am definitely rooting for Minnesota to win the series. I'm not gonna lie.
Denver does not deserve to win this series. I don't even care that I picked them to win it all. Like, I want them to lose this series because they don't deserve it.
All right, let's talk about a series that's already over, and I feel like this is kind of been under discussed. Like the Thunder they just went through and made quick and easy work of the Suns. It was expected, but Mr. Playoff Dropper Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
He did his job against the AC, man. I'll give him his props.
Elite series against this is not a top 10 defense?
They don't got a center, like they're injured, so it's just
kind of sure. I mean, yeah, that's true.
It's the truth. Like they legit don't have a center.
I agree, but he struggled against the Pelicans, who didn't really have any rim protection either. A few years back.
Yeah, but I mean that was because he was seeing a demon, even Trey Murphy, like Najee, that they were just better equipped. I think if Phoenix actually had interior presence, this series would have felt more like there would have been at least one close game, but the series was never close because they lacked any type of interior presence, and it's just because Dillon Brooks played great. Devin Booker played as good as I would expect him to play against OKC's defense. I did not expect Booker to play well, so I expected what he
outplayed by Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, bro.
But yeah, I expect that.
He was giving up shots. He wasn't taking shots. He was doing what they was excusing Kevin Durant and doing, for real, to be honest.
All right, I'm not gonna lie. All trolling aside, I don't want to spend a lot of time on OKC here because who cares? Everybody thought they won the series. I want to talk about the future of the Phoenix Suns and Devin Booker's contract and his career, if it's stagnated. That's kind of what I want to talk about. I mean, he complained about officiating in this series. He complained about officiating in the series, and then the following two games played very poorly. I mean, they haven't been close back to the finals since he made it in 2021 with CP3. So I feel like at this point in his career, he is stagnated in terms of level of play and career. He's been overlapped by Shea and a number of guys. He's in Tyrese Maxey conversations. So I'm gonna go last, or I'll go second. I want to start with Q. You got something to say?
Future of the Phoenix Suns is like, if it's Devin Booker related, it's probably like a 3-year window. If they pull the trigger on Devin Booker, it could get brighter just because seems like they found a coach, they found a infrastructure and how they want to operate and run the team. So that's a good thing. The Devin Booker piece of it, obviously his contract is humongous, but I personally don't care about that because I'm a proponent. If you got what you earned, then you're gonna take it. Like if they weren't going to get, like he was gonna get that from something, like not that specifically, but he's gonna get the money. Like, you know what I'm saying, once you hit the requirements, that's what you're taking. You're not gonna tell Devin Booker to take less bread. He's not gonna take $45 million if I could get 73. That don't make no sense. Nobody would do it.
Jalen Brunson,
and he's an idiot.
He's stupid for doing it.
Yeah, he's just an idiot. Like, look what that landed him. He wanted to chill with his friends, and his friends garbage. You don't got no friends here. Like, so take your bread and keep it pushing. If he does get traded, there's some options, but obviously it makes it hard because he's making a lot of money. But if he stays there, it's like probably a Hall of Famer, put up good numbers. It's okay. Like, you're year 11 at this point. You're pretty much on the downswing, and you, as you said, people have lapped him. Wouldn't be surprised. A bunch of, like, you're talking about younger players, like just as talented, highly drafted players. It's gonna happen. Maybe the Phoenix, they chose the wrong route when they went after Kevin Durant. So like that's why they're here now. But all you can do is like fix it. You don't double down on it. And they're just trying to pivot. So I can't, really go too in on them. They already did that. Like everybody pretty much did that like the last 2 years. Now they finally on the upswing. So once they make decisions on Devin Booker in the summer or whatever the case may be, they should be better moving forward. But this iteration is probably going to look like this for the next couple of years if he's still on the team.
I feel like this year can really only be seen as a positive for the Suns. They weren't expected to be nearly this good. They weren't expected to be a playoff team. But like as a big picture outlook, this is still a very poor situation. They don't have a lot of their draft assets. They don't have a lot of picks. They don't have a lot of flexibility. And you're paying Devin Booker upwards of $70 million at the last year's contract. And the last year's contract, he'll be around 32. That is not a contract you're going to just be able to easily move. You're not going to get nearly enough value back for that player relative to his talent level if you do decide to trade him. And honestly, there isn't much incentive to trade him because you don't have your picks. And whatever team you trade him to is likely going to be very good. So they're in one of the worst situations in the NBA where they are not incentivized to tanking, and they have no route whatsoever to competing for a championship. And I think the way Devin Booker's career has went is pretty sad for a player of his talent level. I'm sure he doesn't really care. Well, I don't want to assume, but he's going to pay a ton of money. So I don't know how much he truly, cares about, just going out in the first round every year or being in the play-in. But this is a player in 2021 that if you would have told people that Shea will be better than him, Anthony Edwards will be better than him, Tatum is clearly better than him. Like a lot of players have just passed him up. Cade is better than him. Like a lot of players have just passed him by, and he's just stagnated in his career. Over the last 10 or so playoff games, he hasn't been great whatsoever. He's been terrible in elimination games. For over the last 2 seasons, he's just stagnated as a player, and he's in this weird space in the NBA where he is probably good enough to really good to get a lot of usage, but not great enough to really be a first option on a championship level team. And he's getting paid a lot of money. Like I don't think Devin Booker does not warrant 35% of the cap. I don't think he does. And I don't think a lot of players do it generally, but I think Devin Booker is not one of the players that does. So they're in a weird situation. He's in a weird situation. But overall, I do think this was a positive year. I think Rasheed Fleming, I think Kamal Maluk, I think has promise. You got a good year from Colin Gillespie. Jalen Green, for what it's worth, I think played well in the play-in and the playoffs. His numbers were trash against OKC, but I like this process. He was aggressive. The passing, I think, in some of these games was really good. So I have to give him credit there. And theoretically, he still has some upside. Dylan Brooks was good this year. Devin Booker wasn't terrible, but he just has been stagnant in his level of play. So it's a pretty tough situation for the Suns. I think they have a lukewarm future. It's not very dark. It's not very bright. It's just.
I got a question. Who's worth 35% of the cap?
I think.
And before you answer that, who decides that?
So who decides that are the owners and the GMs, right? Like practically, right? No,
the CBA decides who's worth that. Though.
Well, yeah,
is what I'm saying. So you
don't have to get them those contracts.
Yes, but you're in the situation, which I think that we fail to realize how these things go in terms of business. It's either you give him the bread or you lose the player. But like you said, you're never gonna get the value back for the player. Whether if you either give him the $73 million and that's just it, you paying your great player $73 million, or you lose him because he could have just walked and now you don't have the $73 million and you don't got your picks, or you trade him and you still don't get the value back and you still don't get the value of the picks. So there's only 2 ways out. Either way, you don't get the value. But would you rather not have the player and still be trash, or have the great player?
I would say like you said, they're in this weird situation where I think a few things are true here, right? I think that Devin Booker is not worth 35% of the cap if Devin Booker can't be a part of going to pursue a championship for a team. But do they have any real good ways to use his money? Maybe not. They don't have any great ways to use his money. I do think they could use Devin Booker's salary though to take on some bad contracts and recoup assets that way. Is it not a viable strategy to rebuild when you don't have your picks? Take on bad contracts, compile assets, get other people's picks, and use that cap space to help you supplement your rebuild. So they don't have to just I don't think it's worth it, to be honest, for the Suns to give 35% of their cap to Devin Booker if he can't help you compete for a championship, because you could be using that money to take on bad contracts, to get on to get other assets, to get first round picks, stuff like that, on top of what you get back for Devin Booker.
I get the point. I'm just saying the player itself, the player himself, is not going to take less. To get the contract, I have to hit the threshold. So I'm going out there making the All NBA teams and of that nature, so I can be able to make this money. I'm going to the table asking for it, is what I'm saying. So they're always going to get the bread no matter what. I don't think.
I just think they should have traded him after last year. Once they committed to after retooling, rebuilding, or whatever after KD, they should have traded him. They should trade D-Book too. Honestly, when he was not on that contract, he probably had more value. He did. Signing him to the extension lowered his value. It did. I think they would have got more money they would have got more value by trading him after KD. I don't know why they really held on to him. I think they should have been willing to trade him, but they're comfortable being mid. He's comfortable making $70 million and playing in Phoenix, where he's played for his whole career. And I understand that viewpoint. I just think they'd have been better off trading him before they signed him to the extension. KD, what you think about
that? I think it depends what the Suns' goal is. And if the goal is a championship relatively soon, then yeah, you should have traded him. But I think there's an element of you got a new owner who is from Michigan, and Booker is from Michigan. There's ties there. A new owner who wants to just kind of be competitive, wants to just play meaningful basketball, wants to get people, wants to get fans coming to games in the arena, filling seats. And I think with that goal in mind, paying Booker 100% made sense, because that has been the cornerstone of your franchise for the decade. He literally rescued them from the depths of hell. The Suns were complete bottom feeders since the Nash era until Booker, essentially. And so he rescued them again. The Michigan ties with the owner are a real thing. So I think from that perspective, it made sense to pay him. I don't think every team in the NBA has the immediate goal of championship. And I think when the Suns, after trading KD, I think it was the goal kind of shifted for them. It wasn't let's just championship. Let's kind of just change the culture here. Let's create at least some type of enjoyable environment for the fans, something to sustain going forward. And doing that, I think Booker, regardless of the price tag, it made sense to pay him what they did, just to keep him around, to keep some type of, integral Suns culture, keep people coming to games, etc.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I don't necessarily think their goal needs to be win the championship, but I as a fan, if I was a fan of this team, I would just hate them being in the middle. I honestly would be, because I think that even though
somebody from Phoenix who knows dozens of Phoenix fans, they would rather just be competing and winning games, because compared to what they were, again, before Booker, just a consistent lottery team, nobody went to games. Nobody even talked about the Suns. And it's a different environment around the team now. So
every team doesn't operate to win the championship next year or the next 5 years, because that's just unrealistic. It just doesn't happen. But then you end up in situations where the Pelicans, you're not selling tickets and you're not getting a home game, you're not getting fans, you're not making revenue. This is still these are still businesses, so they have to make revenue to live. They gotta feed, pay everybody that's working in that building. So you have to put fans in the seats, and sometimes that's just what you have to do until you make it to that point where things are buzzing and you get in the fan crowd. Now you can afford to start doing the things because you got the backing of the fans. They'll stick with you now because you gave them something to want to watch. And then you start doing the savvy moves to try to win the championship. But everybody got building blocks. Washington, they're not making moves to win a championship now. So I'm not going to grade anything they do on the curve of winning a championship, because that'd make no sense. They'd fail for the next 10 years, pretty much.
Yeah. Let's move on to a series that's not over yet. It can be described.
It's over. Yeah, it's over.
It can be described as over. The Rockets are down 3-1 now. They were down 3-0 after a historic collapse in game 3 of the first round. Now they blew out the Lakers in game 4. And now it's game 5. It's back in LA. Austin Reeves is I think questionable to play in this game. He's optimistic he'll be able to play. I guess the question is, can the Rockets have any chance of coming back in the series, seeing as Luka Doncic is not playing, and then obviously Austin Reeves coming back, but probably be a little rusty and all that type of stuff. Can they make history? I think we will all have the same answer, but or or maybe let's talk about how they got to this point as well, in the series. KD, Houston guy.
Yeah, so I went to Game 4. Just hearing the conversations around me from Rockets fans, they were all pissed. Like they were up 20 in this game, and dude behind me goes, "Man, this is why I'm pissed off, bro. This should be 2-2 going back to LA, and it probably should be. Like there was no excuse for the Rockets to lose Game 3. I'll be honest, like that." They had a 99.9% chance of winning the game. It went up 6 with the ball in like 29 seconds left and blew it. But I think part of that is just it goes to show that this team is just not – it's not well coached for the playoffs. It has a lot of boneheaded players. It has a lot of players whose playoff fit is just very questionable. And this, like, it's not – it's not being stated enough how bad of a showing this is for the Rockets, like losing to the Lakers. Like, yeah, like you're losing to LeBron and whatnot, but this is like a dream matchup for the Rockets in terms of like what the opposing team is bad at. You have a team that does not have a lot of ball handling. Luke Kennard is one of the primary ball handlers. You have a team that does not have a rim protector. DeAndre Ayton's not a rim protector. Jackson Hayes is not a rim protector. You can't put either of them on a Men Thompson and say just like guard the rim the way some of these other teams in the West can. They don't have that. On top of that, neither of those guys are actually good at guarding other centers. They're not good defenders, period. So Sengun should be able to eat. And yet they're still down, like they're down 3-1. This would have been, I firmly believe this would have been a sweep if the Lakers were a younger team, or even if there was another day in between Game 3 and 4. The fact that it was like a one-day turnaround and the Rockets are a young, athletic team just still playing hard. The Lakers are pretty much old, and that they know the series is over. I think that contributed to why this wasn't a sweep. I fully believe like that they probably would have got swept if there was another day of rest. And that is just egregious given again the context. The Lakers are not they're what the Rockets want in terms of a matchup, and they haven't been able to showcase like true sustained playoff winning basketball. I don't know where you go from here, honestly, because like if you trade guys, you're going to be selling low on them. I think Sengun, his limitations have been like put on for the world to see. I actually think you can probably sell decently high on Men Thompson because he puts up box score numbers, even if they aren't like really impacted, like plus minus, like might say that he's been impactful, but you look up and he has 25 and 5, and it doesn't feel like he's done anything all game outside like take a free throw line jumper, and that's just not. You can't pay a guy doing that. Overall, for the Rockets, I think the Kevin Durant stuff, I think this is just another pit stop for him. I think he's going to end up seeking out a new destination this summer. And they got decisions to make. You gotta figure out what you do with this young core, because you have to look at our young core in the West. We line up with the Spurs timeline, OKC's timeline. They are not anywhere close to competing with either of those teams. And they don't got like lottery picks. Like OKC is going to have another high lottery pick. The Spurs have a bunch of picks going on these future years. Like they don't have anything. And so it's very much, there's going to be tough decisions to be made this summer on the future of this team overall.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to have to be a lot of hard decisions for the Rockets GM this offseason, if he's still the Rockets GM this offseason. Honestly, I don't think that's guaranteed. But this young core, I think the writing is on the wall for this young core, honestly. They don't have a primary engine in this young core. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. I don't think Amen and Sengun really fit well together. I don't think Sengun is this future star player. Honestly, I think he's a touch reliant big with no touch. He is not a great roller at all. He can't space the floor. He's not a viable rim protector. he presents so many problems for playoff translation. He presents so many problems for a team that's actually trying to win a championship. Ahmed Thompson is, I think, an incredibly impactful player. He's a great defender, a really good offensive rebounder, really good in transition. But even though it's to a lesser extent than Osar, I do think that he still provides lineup constraints and offensive issues in the playoff series, especially as you go longer in the playoffs. I think the KD debacle pretty much nuked the chemistry on his team midway through the year. And I'm excited to see after the season is over the output about that, because I know there has to be one. I'm excited to see the inner workings happen in the locker room. I don't want to say that the Rockets' future is like dark, but there is not a clear answer on how you get this team to contention. There's not a clear answer how you get this team to a championship. There's not one available. So they have a lot of difficult decisions to make on his roster, and so I'm excited to see what they do this offseason. Q, seems like KD picked another spot that does not fit his play style or fit how he wants to. Like, he picked another spot that did not give him an actual chance to win a championship. Do you think he should stay in Houston? Do you think he should explore other options? And if so, what other options would work for him at this point? What does this iteration of his career say about his career, if anything at all? Answer for me, broadly.
At this point, we understand that he is not the best decision maker when it comes to picking organizations and personnel that he wants to play with. Like, again, the Nets situation, it's a lot more than just like the Nets. I believe for sure that they would have probably won in 2021. That aside, that doesn't like erase the other 5 years, post Golden State. I just think the noise from both times just like did too much damage to him, and he just allowed things, like people saying things to like influence what he does and how his career goes. In terms of like team hopping and things like that, that in of itself, I don't really care too much about, because a lot of players have been on a lot of different teams. Like if you just look down in history, a lot of 4, 5, 6 different teams. So it's like that's kind of on par for like the older guys. They're trying to just find a spot to stick or whatever the case may be. Even though he's not a guy that's like Kevin Durant's not like a trying to stick type of player. Like, he's still one of like the 25 best players in the NBA like to this day.
Obviously, yeah, clearly.
Huh?
Oh, you mean all NBA, like all time, or in the NBA
Both.
right now? Oh yeah, they're both. Yeah, both.
Yeah, both. In the summer, I think this would have been better. Like, if you'd have chose Minnesota, it would have been a better spot. Like, this probably wouldn't have had a great if they kept Rudy. Like, if it was like Julius Randle, and like Jaden McDaniels for Kevin Durant, whatever the case may be, I think that would have been fine. We wouldn't be in this situation right here, right now. I just think post 2019 has pretty much been downhill between teammate sabotage, his own sabotage, his own injuries, other injuries, questionable coaching. Like, it's just a whole conundrum of things that probably, like, if you stayed in Golden State, he still deals with some of those same things, but the infrastructure is there for them to win. Like he probably would have won 1, maybe 2. The noise eventually would have quieted down. Eventually, people are going to just stop talking about, oh, it's him and Steph. Like, people were talking about Shaq and Kobe forever. Like, eventually that stopped. So it was like he just allowed things to like dictate his own career instead of just trying to win. But I understand it. He tells us all the time he just want to hoop, and that's cool. Like, I'm okay. If that's your route, that's your route. Obviously, you're still going to get the criticisms for anybody else, but if you're okay with just hooping, that's fine. He made his legacy, whatever the case may be. I don't think at this point there should be anything to do to like severely harm it per se, because like at this point it's pretty much gravy. Like, we don't really see this from like NBA players like past a prime, 35, 36, 37. That's like all gravy. You just can't like overly F it up. And he's just like, not with basketball, just with like burner situation along with like the teams not going on. It just
lie though.
Like,
he was telling the truth.
No, we treating him like Paul George. Like the slander he gets is like a Paul George like type slander, as if like he ain't as good as he is because of other things that had nothing to do with like the actual his ability to play basketball on the court. And that's my only problem with them. It's like bad games, a bad game. Like he played 78 games this year. Nobody was talking about Kevin Durant or like his turnovers or decision making or whatever the case may be for 65 games. Then that's the back-to-back Lakers situation happened. And they look nasty, and it's a referendum on his whole career because of those 2 games. And then you know what happened after those 2 games? For 5 straight games, he had a 30 ball, 40 ball, win. Timeline quiet. Lose a game, right back at it. He put himself in this space where like bad games, we gonna get you. In good games, nobody really cares. And that's not a place nobody really wants to live when you're a very public person. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole lot of like things that go into it. That's just not about actual putting the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I agree with a lot of that. Yeah, I don't really have no like real like KD referendum on his career thing. I mean, the thing I said in Discord, it's just something I noticed. And we don't have to really debate that, but I do want to talk a bit more about like why this series has actually gotten to this point. And I just think that they don't have enough ball handling. It's similar to the Pistons. They kind of like the Pistons, basically the Pistons of the West. They're the Pistons of the West. They have not enough ball handling, not enough shooting. A center that can't protect the rim. Offensive center,
one-way players.
Yeah, a bunch of one-way players. They're pretty much the Pistons of the West. I mean, that's fine for regular season stuff, but they just don't. Both of those teams do not have clear paths to the championship, and it actually makes me curious. And I want to ask that question: who do you think has a clearer path to championship contention, the Pistons or the Rockets?
Pistons. Ooh, pause. I'm gonna still say the Pistons, only because the Rockets can get the better players through. Like if they traded this offseason, like they can get a Giannis, and they'd be better than the Pistons, and they probably could have a better chance of winning a championship.
I don't even think they can get Giannis
to take down OKC or San Antonio. But there may be a slightly smaller move that the Pistons can do that could, like, again, it's the Eastern Conference that can vault them into a conference finals appearance, like with one slightly smaller move than a Giannis that they can probably pull off that the Rockets also, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a conference thing that makes it that the Pistons might still be closer.
I'm gonna say Pistons just because I think Pistons actually have a star. Not to say KD isn't. I just don't see KD in the. I think he's gone. Like I don't think he's sticking around Houston. So the Pistons actually have a star. The Rockets don't, and it's pretty surface level, but and reductive. But I really think that's just what it comes down to. That I can't comfortably sit here and say that the Rockets have outside of KD a top 40 player. Like I can't comfortably say that. So. And the Pistons, I can comfortably say, have at worst a top 20 player.
It's hard to answer that honestly. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say the Rockets, just because I feel like
if the Rockets pay a man what he's probably going to command, would your does your answer stay the same?
It depends on the view. If they're trying to build around the men, then no, it will change.
I mean, it's not even build around him. Like, if they're going to keep him, he's going to probably be getting paid minimum like $35 million a year.
Yeah,
probably.
I just think that the Rockets, like, they have more assets than the Pistons for one. They have more assets than the Pistons. So they have like more avenues to like just go like blank sheet almost and just like push towards like star players, where I feel like I see I see the Pistons holding on also and doing a lot longer. And like I'm literally looking at the timeline right now. People are like this is not. They're young, yes. There's an obvious ceiling on this trio. There's an obvious ceiling on it because functionally it does not work. I don't like. Do you know the level of shooting and ball handling you have to put next to these players for it to work? It's like not even attainable, really. To be honest, the Pistons don't have that. Like, their assets aren't that great. They don't have young talent for real. Like they do, obviously, but not like they have a Soren Duran.
They really don't.
They have a Soren Duran. Ron Holland.
But I mean, the Rockets. Okay, but if they traded him in, they would get good return.
Yeah, they would get a good return.
Reed Shepherd. I don't know.
I don't know. Reed Shepherd, but Reed Shepherd is better than any asset on the Pistons outside of Soren Duran. Facts. He's better than Ron Holland. I mean,
yeah, but that's not even. It's a low bar though. That's what I'm saying.
That's my point though. Like they have Ron Holland. They have their own first round picks, but they're gonna be a good team. Like the Rockets have other teams' first round picks to really maneuver with. They have Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but they're not gonna trading Kevin. They're not gonna get like a lot for him back. I mean,
I think they have more enticing assets, not only in terms of picks, but the actual players on the roster. They do. And I think it makes more sense for them in the eyes of their GM to trade someone like Sengun than it does to like Duran or something like that. And Duran's value, like Sengun's value, is probably very low right now, but you could probably still get some decent from him, honestly.
I don't know. Yeah, what team in the NBA actually wants Sengun right now?
I don't know, man.
The answer is probably zero. I doubt there's any team. I mean, the Rockets. So the Rockets don't have their pick this year. They have 2 picks next year. They have Phoenix's pick.
Like those Phoenixes are really valuable.
And then they have their own pick next year. I mean, Phoenix's pick next year won't be valuable. Like they'll be a playoff team again, I think.
I can definitely see them missing it.
They've got their own pick in 28. They have 2 in 2029, the most favorable of theirs, and either Dallas or Phoenix in 2029. That could probably be pretty decent. So I mean, they got their own picks. Like the Pistons got their picks. For the Rockets, I mean, they do have a few extra picks. So yeah. Yeah, the Pistons just set fucking picks on fire, man. Ron Holland and Asar Thompson. You didn't need to draft both. I won't say Ron Holland was setting a pick on fire because we talked before the pod. The guys that went after him, you probably would have also considered those as setting a pick on fire. But the Asar, is just tragic.
It's not.
Jay Ivey too. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's setting a pick on fire with Jay Knight, but it's obviously a miss. Like he's not even in the league anymore. So
they had to take him though because he was supposed to go third. So the fact that he even fell was not third, fourth. So the fact he fell
all right. The Raptors. Let's talk about in terms of felling. The Cleveland Cavaliers have fell off over the last 2 games. The Raptors have eaten a series at 2-2 after 2 hard-fought wins, a blowout win. That was pretty much shooting variance in Game 3. Game 4 was one of the worst basketball games I've ever watched. But the Raptors were able to pull it out because down the stretch of the game, they executed at a higher level. And the Cavaliers players, namely Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, did not execute down the stretch of the game.
Whoa. You cannot start naming names and leave out that 7 foot
down the stretch of the game. Donovan Mitchell went over 5.
Okay, yeah, but you can't start naming names and leave out the dude on the supermax contract.
Down the stretch of the game. I said down the stretch of the game.
Okay, yeah, but the game didn't just happen down the stretch. It happened in totality.
I want to start. We're going to talk about multiple things within this segment. I want to start off with: do you think the Cavaliers are still going to win the series? How confident are you in the Cavaliers still winning the series? I'm gonna start with KD.
Yes, I mean, of course, I'm confident in them winning the series. the Raptors are good. They were garbage in this last game. Like, they shouldn't have won it. They were legit trash. But there's an age-old saying in the playoffs, the series doesn't start until a road team wins. And if no road team wins, then the Cavs win the series. And we're still very much in that scenario because neither team has won on the road yet. And I don't think the Raptors, after this past game, are going to go into Cleveland and take a game. They're not going to take Game 5, and they won't take Game 7. Like, they're not a good team. They play hard and they play tough, especially with their own crowd, playing like in front of Toronto is usually one of the better crowds in the NBA. But that doesn't manifest in them playing good basketball. It just manifests in them playing hard and hustling. And so I don't think that they're going to take 2 more games in this series. I think the Cavs they're working through a lot. Their starting 5 has gotten little to no reps together on the season because of injuries to Jared Allen. Donovan Mitchell was dealing with some stuff after they got James Harden. So this is not a team that's gotten reps. And I listened to some of the Cavs podcasts, and going into the playoffs, they just weren't confident in the team at all because they hadn't got reps together. It's like this isn't a team that knows how to play with each other, and you can't just figure that out on the fly in the playoffs, which I agree with. That being said, you don't need that to beat the Raptors. The Raptors are garbage. This team has not been good, even though it's 2-2. I think the Cavs have clearly been the better team for the majority of the series. Like, the majority of time on the floor, the Cavs have clearly been the better team. So my final prediction, I think it was probably going to be Cleveland in 6. I think they're going to win both these next 2. Donovan Mitchell has these past 2 games not played up to par. He needs to figure it out. James Harden, I think overall has been as good as you'd expect this version of James Harden to be.
The best player.
Yeah, but there's still growing pains of figuring out how to work James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, get them working together, getting Evan Mobley more involved, because the switch up from those first 2 games where he was I don't want to say super involved, but he was aggressive. I think is kind of the key difference maker to this last game. He just looked like he wasn't even on the floor and getting in foul trouble. I think there's a lot of blame to go around for why this is 2-2, but I don't think that really it's more than the fact that they haven't had reps together. I think that's really what it all stems from. And ideally, as they're building more reps, this will help them going into the next series against an Orlando Magic team, where I think they have a good chance at winning just because they have a lot more offensive firepower overall compared to the Magic. And I think they're better coached as well. So, but I got this series ending in 6. But Donovan Mitchell got to play better. Evan Mobley, you have at some point, dude, you're making a super max. You are on a super max contract, and you go out there on the floor, and I'm just left puzzled as to you look like a role player, and at times not a good one. And you gotta justify that contract.
What I'll say is I think that first, for starters, I think the Cavaliers need to get Jarrett Allen more involved. To be honest, I think that his impact in those first 2 games was really loud, especially that first game. They started the game just getting him the ball in the pick and roll. I think that the best action the Cavs can run right now, I think, is a Jarrett Allen and James Harden pick and roll. I don't think they have the answers for that, especially with Jakob the one being the one that dropped. I just don't think they have. It showed a lot of success through the first 2 games. I should go back to it. I think that the adjustment the Toronto Raptors made to just pretty much sell out and they put Scotty Barnes on Harden. They've shown Donovan Mitchell a lot of bodies on a lot of his drives. He's not getting a lot of open lanes, and they're making the others beat them. And the shooting variance has swung in the other direction in Toronto. They have just not been able to shoot as well on the road in a series. They have forced a ton of turnovers. Since they got Harden, they were one of the best teams in the league at taking care of the ball. now in this series they've begun to turn them over a ton on the road. They got out in transition and they played an extremely great defense.
They're getting to the line as well, more than Cleveland.
You said what?
They're getting to the free throw line more than Cleveland is as well.
Yeah, they're getting out in transition a ton as well. The Cavaliers transition defense over the last 2 games has been bad. The front court has lost the battle tremendously over the last 2 games. CMB has completely dominated Evan Mobley and Jared Allen over the last 2 games. Shout out him. So I think that's just been the bulk of their issues. I think that the Cavaliers are on the verge of entering some very dangerous territory because if they lose in the first round, there is going to have to be major change in the offseason, whether that's trading Evan Mobley, whether that's trading Jared Allen, whether that's trading Donovan Mitchell. Something has to change. It just has to. You cannot have year in, year out disappointments, and this one will be the worst of them all. Losing to Toronto, who pretty much everybody who had you as a heavy favorites would be disastrous. And a lot of the blame will go to Donovan Mitchell, and rightfully so. He is perceived as the best player on this team. He's the best player on this team. And we're approaching a decade of him not being able to make it to the conference finals. And he is also seen as his playoff riser, great playoff scorer, but he still struggles to balance his scoring and playmaking. He still struggles to toggle on as a scorer and playmaker in the playoffs. And I think he's a very underwhelming playmaker relative to the usage that he has, relative to how much he's on the ball. He is a 6'2" point guard. 6'2" shooting guard. And at that size, I don't, for the life of me, understand why you won't be able to play point guard if you just weren't a relatively average cognition basketball player. So he's had some really good playoff series. And he's had some really bad ones. He's played terribly on the road for a while now in the playoffs. His 3-point jump shot has fell off routinely in the playoffs. So a lot of the weight of this run for the Cavs will be on Donovan Mitchell, his decision-making, and his scoring ability. I'm going to move on to Evan Mobley. Mobley he's going to be I think, is this the first year of his contract or is it next year?
Hopefully it's the first.
His contract, he is not living up to his contract whatsoever. At this moment, as it stands right now, he's being grossly overpaid relative to what he's providing.
No, this is the first year.
Yeah. So what he's providing in the playoffs, especially, I think he's an incredible defender. I think he's a really good play finisher, but they need him to be better in these moments to justify the contract that he's being paid right now. So I don't know what the Cavs are going to do if they lose a series. I think they'll win in 6, but my move would be to call for Giannis. That's what I would do. I would call for Giannis with Evan Mobley as a centerpiece of that deal. I don't think a lot of teams are not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what team is going to offer a player as good as Evan Mobley in a Giannis deal?
Do you think Evan Mobley this year was better than Cat?
Younger, but in terms of because
Cat would probably be, because that's how
was better than Cat. Yes, this year I don't know. I think the offense was pretty underwhelming. So I'm not
if we're including playoffs as well, then it's definitely
Cat
in favor of Cat. But there is the age, the age thing is real. Cat is 30, so
Emo, he's 23 or 24?
I think he's 25 now. 24, 25. Yeah.
5 years.
That's a lot.
It is in terms of in terms of player, there's probably not a team that would offer a better player also relative to age. Like if we include age, that's where it really kind of
He's essentially the building block, but the Bucks are building around Cat. So
yeah.
So by that virtue, then yes, Mobley's probably the best player that you can get in a Giannis deal.
But yeah, I don't think that they're gonna lose the series, but I can't be like really hopeful for this team to go and make a finals trip. I think the Cavaliers have one of the highest ceilings in the league when everything is clicking, but their floor can be so low. It can be so low. It can be what we're seeing right now. It could be not scoring 100 points in a game. And they are going against one of the best defenses in the league. But this performance is unjustifiable. It's pitiful. In fact, they lost game 4 was a disgrace because they were in control. They did not score a basket, I think, for the last 5 minutes. I don't think they grabbed an offensive rebound. They didn't grab a defensive rebound for the last 5 minutes of the game. And that's on Evan Mobley. That's on Jared Allen. That's on James Harden. That's on Donovan Mitchell. Their big four has just underperformed relative to the expectations. So another series that's tied at 2-2. Kind of feels like the Knicks have taken the momentum over the series. They have won the last 2 games. Who do you have winning this series now that it's a best of 3 right now between the Knicks and the Hawks? Q, who do you have winning this series? Yeah, that's pretty much my question. I don't even know how I'm supposed to say
The Knicks water pretty much has met its level in terms of like them just being a more talented team than the Hawks. Like, however slightly it may be, they just dug down. Cat, I would say, not even just because of this series, but he's just been. I think he's probably their best. Like, they're probably their most effective offensive player, specifically in this series, because there's nobody on that team that could hold him. Jalen Brunson has to deal with what he has to deal with. They found a formula that they're gonna pull it out. They should have. There's some games they should have lost. Like, this could have been over in 5. Like, I'm gonna give the Atlanta the respect to get one, but the Knicks could have won this in 5 games. Like, they should have won it in 5 games, but they didn't. Things happen, but we knew the flaws of this Knicks team, and we're gonna see it probably next round. They're probably gonna lose next round. They're gonna have to. We're gonna talk about that when the time comes, and they're gonna have to make some moves. But Atlanta showed their mettle. They showed their thing. Like, I'm a fan of CJ because he's not a great player, but he's just a professional. He's score the ball. Like, he's getting to the spots and he's putting them up, and he's been able to do that since he came to the league. Of the 100+ playoff games he's had, he's always been a 20-point per game scorer in the playoffs. Like, he's had big games. You took Jokic down in the game 7. Like, we've seen him do these things before, so this is not new to CJ McCollum. Jalen Johnson, we knew that was gonna eventually happen. Like, first real playoff action where he's like a main focal point, so it wasn't the greatest series for him. Atlanta, they're just building. Like, this is not like everything. This right here is gravy for them. Obviously, they would love to win, but the Knicks, they should make it out. They just going to end up losing to a better team.
Katie, who do you have winning the series?
Yeah, it's the Knicks. Is there? Can you share your screen? Is that a thing here? It is. Yeah.
You can.
Select. Y'all see my screen?
Yeah, hold on.
It's kind of small. Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, I mean, this alone is why I got the Knicks winning. This is, despite it being 2-2, this has not been a close series. Shout out Data Baller. It's like the best site for NBA stats, advanced stats, etc. But this has not been a close series. The Knicks crushing the Hawks in 4 factors. Team comparison, offensive rating, defensive rating, crushing them, a plus 6.4 net compared to the Hawks. Like, this is very much the numbers have painted this series pretty much as a sweep. It's just come down to a few in clutch moments. The Hawks have made plays and the Knicks haven't. They've had looks and they just haven't made the final shots, and they've blown some leads down the stretch. But this has very much not been a close series. It should have been a sweep. I think I had Knicks in 5, but I think after going down 2-1, I think it was a wake-up call for the Knicks. I don't think they're going to play with their food at all anymore. It's going to look like this last game where they won comfortably, and they didn't even leave a window for the Hawks to come back. And I think they're going to safely win this series in 6 games because, again, like the numbers, you're getting crushed in 4 factors and just in raw offensive defensive rating. It's just not – you're not going to win a series when the numbers are tilted that much. So,
I think that I have the Knicks winning this series as well. I had them winning in I think 5 coming into the series. They were in control of that game, and then down the stretch of the game they blew it. CJ McCollum has been excellent. I think Jalen Johnson has struggled in his first playoff series. I won't give him too much slack for that. I just think that he's clearly not a half-court initiator, and his game could honestly really struggle in the playoffs as long as he doesn't have a playmaker like a Trae Young to set him up for success. I think that the Hawks have a solid foundation, not a young core essentially, but a solid foundation of players. This is a good team. I think even going forward, if they can keep CJ off the bench, that would be pretty good. They just need their primary engine. I think that going in the series so far and going forward, we'll see the detriment of having Dyson Daniels on the floor because while he does provide immense value for the team in terms of defending Jalen Brunson, he's been great defending Jalen Brunson, who has not had a great series at all really. He's been great at getting out in transition and passing and playmaking for this offense, but teams putting a center on him has hurt the Hawks offense. It has hurt Jalen Johnson's production as well in the series. So they got to adjust that at a certain point. But I agree that this series hasn't been all that close outside of it being 2-2. And it seemed like the Knicks are being on the ropes at certain points. Obviously, the blowout in game 4 helps that a lot. But I would expect the games will be competitive, probably, especially game 6 back in Atlanta. But I would expect the Knicks to walk away with this win, and I think they can beat the Celtics. I'm not the Celtics have made quick work of the Sixers for the most part, which we'll talk about in the next segment. But I do think that they have they beat them last year, so I think they've had a strong chance of beating the Celtics, who I think were better last year, honestly. Obviously, they're clicking really well right now with Tatum coming back, so we'll actually talk about that now. Celtics take a 3-1 lead over the Sixers. I just want to start by saying I think it's obviously remarkable what Jason Tatum has been able to do since he came back from injury. One of the greatest injury recoveries we've seen. He missed 8 months maybe before he came back, and it took a few games for him to get back in his groove, and he's been excellent since he's come back. I think his ability to play make has grown even more with him being off the floor. He was a great playmaker last year, but he's one of the best passers at his position, probably the second best passer at his position outside of LeBron at this point in his career. He's been a special playmaker. The 3 ball is falling in this series. He doesn't look like he's really missed a beat for the most part coming back from his injury, and that's very encouraging. That's very special to see. I think that it was a blessing in disguise for Jason Tatum to go out with that injury because I just think his perception around the league has improved so much since he returned from injury and was got injured. I think a lot of people are rooting for him, and I think it's been great to watch him really come back and be impactful and the Celtics be a great team. Now he's on the floor. They are one of the favorites to win a championship because of him and the rest of his team. Joe Mazzulla has done a great job this year, contrary to, I guess, to some belief share here. That's really my only takeaway for the Celtics. I think that it's been incredible what Jason Tatum has been able to do since he returned from injury. And then I want to talk about the Sixers' future going forward. But we can stay on the Celtics. How have they been able to take this 3-1 lead over the 76ers? Q.
They're just better. They're better and deeper. Like that. Like the Sixers have top end talent like with Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, BJ, that rivals any most four mans. But after that, it's a steep drop off. And the Celtics, that's where they throw out. They have some of the best 4 through 8 guys in the league, and that's just how they be alongside like coaching and things like that. But yeah, they're just a better team.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't think anybody came into this series having the Sixers winning. The Celtics are better, even if they do have some flaws with their offense and the way they do things. They're more talented, better coached is probably a question mark, to be honest, but they're more talented and they're a deeper roster as well. Like both of those things, it was just an uphill battle for the Sixers, especially without Joel Embiid the first few games. And so, given all that, there was a point where the Sixers might not have even made the playoffs. You could still argue that they probably aren't the best team out the play-in. If I'm being honest, I think in a playoff series, I would take the way the Hornets were playing. I would take them over the Sixers. The Magic, even though they lost the head-to-head game, I think the Magic are showing right now why they're more formidable in the playoffs. So, those two teams alone, the Sixers probably shouldn't even be here. I think that you're relying on old Paul George. You're relying on a rookie in VJ Edgecombe. Maxey is elite, but even Maxey has some limitations. It's just the Sixers, where they go from here. You have Max and you got VJ, so that's a definite W. I don't think they're going to be able to get off Paul George contract without taking on another negative contract. So we'll see what happens there. Joel Embiid, I think there needs to come to a point where we got to move on from the Joel Embiid process. Trust the process. I was what the slogan was. I think the process is over. He can't stay healthy. Even if he does still play great when he's on the floor, he can't stay on the floor. And it gets to a point where you gotta look at what the future could hold. And I think between Maxey and VJ, you got a solid duo there, guard duo of the future, and you got to start the new process of retooling the team around those two.
I think, but how do you do that though? Because I don't think Joel Embiid has pretty much any value though. Because of his contract, because of his injury issues, how do you move him to a different team? Who is going to be interested in that? If you do have to move him to a different team, you have to give him you have to attach stuff to even get off of Joel Embiid. And then at that point, is it really worth it? Let me look at his contract. How many years left does he have?
No, it's horrible. No, it's bad. It's bad. he has 29.
Yeah, he has 3 more years left on his contract at $57 million, $62 million, and then $67 million. What team is willingly taking that contract? And he's not they're stuck
the Seattle Supersonics.
Huh?
The Seattle Supersonics.
I wouldn't say they're in the worst situation possible in the league because there's always the chance that Embiid is healthy enough for a playoff run, and then you can compete or whatever. But it's just the Paul George contract is insane. It's terrible. I don't know why they did that. The Embiid contract is awful. You have 2 basically negative contracts on your roster, and Paul George is still a pretty good player. Joel Embiid is still a pretty good player, but who is taking that contract and who's taking that contract? So you're in a very, very, very tough spot where your only choice is to compete. That's your only choice is convince yourself every single year that you have a chance at a championship, because any other option is just not feasible. It's just not. Personally, that's what I feel like that. How do you move off of Joel Embiid? How do you do it? Who's taking a contract? I don't think anybody's doing it.
Yeah, there might be you might be able to find, say, a Miami that is willing to take on Joel Embiid. I can see that being something they do. They just say, you know what, we are Miami. We're historically like we compete for championships. We don't care that Joel Embiid might be a negative contract. He gives us a good chance at competing for a championship. We'll jump on it. Paul George, I think. So Paul George, he's a negative contract for the next 2 years. I think you might be able to find a team that says, we'll take him if you take like either another negative contract back or like some other type of move. Like I'm thinking like the Spurs. The Spurs, if Spurs say, yeah, we want to move on from De'Aaron Fox. Fox, I don't think he fits with what Philly has going on, but maybe you can find a third team to take him. Or even if you just try to make the Fox, like Maxey, VJ thing work. Like it'd be pretty nasty, but, maybe they try it. Could the Spurs say, you know what, we'll take Paul George's contract, you take De'Aaron Fox's contract, and call a spade. I could see something like that, working out for both teams, essentially. The Joel Embiid piece, that's the more difficult one, where is there a team willing to take on all that money? Probably not, but maybe a team like Miami could do it. Maybe some other teams that are like not good GM led, like the Pelicans, teams that aren't ran, the Kings, like teams that are not ran well could maybe get fooled into doing it. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I think it's probably the best decision going forward.
The last series to talk about that maybe ending tonight is the Spurs lead 3-1 right now over the Blazers. The Blazers got one game, a really good game from Scoot. And I think Scoot's been promising, honestly, for to end this year. I think a lot of people wrote him off. But there is a saying that guards need 3 years, and I think that's kind of valid. He's had promising moments in this series. Denny hasn't been the best, but
the playmaking for Scoot has not been good though. That has to be.
He cannot pass the ball. Well, he doesn't pass the ball.
1.5 assists. Yeah, that's bad.
I think this is like one of the least interesting series of the first round.
It was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting a second. But I mean, everybody expected the Spurs to win this series, and they're clearly going to win the series. This is probably the last game tonight. It's in San Antonio. It's over. My main thing, the only thing I want to say about this is I tweeted about this. I think Donovan Clingan is one of the biggest examples of what old heads say, where we're losing recipes. The game has gone too far. Like what they be saying, like
it's along.
We need to bring post scoring back. Like
it's along the lines of like all that type of.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's like get your ass in the game.
we overthinking it. Like
there is no way a 7'2", 280-pound center should be flirting with a 53-point rate, especially if he is not Karl Anthony Towns or Kristaps Porzingis, where he can actually knock these threes down at a very respectable clip.
Yeah. 34% true shooting, that has to be all-time bad. That's what he's at right now. Like that has to be all-time bad for a center in a playoff series.
I'm gonna look it up after this because that's your quality tweet. I call it tweet. I'll have to look it up after this. But the fact that he's shooting these many threes is an indictment on his offensive game. To even be this bad offensively, or to be this inefficient offensively as a center, is an indictment on his offensive game. He cannot make layups. He's a very a poor finisher. He's shooting like what 66% at the rim or so, but like that is including dunks. I think Donovan Clingan is a player that has he's probably, I think, their second or third best player in the roster. I think that he can still be a really good center in his league, but the athletic limitations is there. He can only really guard and drop, which I think he's an excellent drop defender though. But the Blazers need to deprioritize 3-point shooting being a part of Donovan Clingan's game and work on his touch around the rim, his lower body athleticism, and his ability to just be to be a quality offensive player going forward, because that's what they need going forward. Not him shooting threes. Like him shooting threes is utter woke nonsense. Like it just is. Like it is. So that's really all I got to say about the series. Obviously, the Blazers are interesting going forward. Just their team building ideas is pretty interesting. Just a lot of defenders getting out of transition, having length. They need that. They need that offensive cog, because while Denny is good, he clearly has limitations in the half court. When he can't get to the free throw line, it gets pretty nasty. But I think he's a pretty well-rounded player. But the defenses obviously fell off. They need that real, true offensive like cog. And I mean, we let's see what Dame is coming back from injury. Who knows, man?
Denny will be better. I think he'll be better defensively next year, because
when they get started,
he's their best on-ball player right now. So, yeah, he gets tired and whatnot. I ain't got much to say about this. If anything, we learned that De'Aaron Fox definitely isn't going to be on the team past the summer.
That's a good point.
Because I was never in the camp of trading him, because De'Aaron Fox is a good player. For the 82 games, you still need that. Yes, Dylan Harper's he was a rookie, so let him ease in. And I understand like throwing him into the fire and just letting him get the warts out. Obviously, they probably would still been as good this year, maybe a little bit less, because they probably lose a game or two here or there, especially that stretch where De'Aaron Fox was going crazy in the beginning of the year when Wemby missed time. Who was to say Dylan Harper would have picked up that slack or not? We don't know, but De'Aaron Fox basically got us here, and now you could just let the two young bulls have it, let them do their thing, and then you can wash your hands. It wasn't a bad. He got his money. He has a chance to probably win a title this year. If he goes to another team, he still got his contract, still got his chip. But now Dylan Harper has broke out this series-ish. Stephon Castle they tried early on to make him like get him off the floor, but it didn't work, and he's like flourishing. And some of the things that you may have been worried about, he's either fixing them or working his way around them to still be effective and stay on the floor. So I think that's all you need. I don't think you need to spend that much capital or invest that much time, minutes, shots, usage to three players in your backcourt. So it's time to move on from De'Aaron Fox, and I think it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. There's no malice with that. They're clearly ready to be like a staple in the Western Conference. So that's one thing we could get from this series. We'll see what it look like next round, but based off this round against Portland, who has decent like defenders and perimeter defense, they've been chilling.
I've already said this before, I think, and it continues to I guess get thrown back at me for some reason, which I mean, people talk about like not admitting you're wrong, and then when you do admit you're wrong, they still like throw back and what you said in your face. But I mean, I think that in terms of my Stephon Castle evaluation, I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? He's a good player. He's flawed. He's really flawed.
I ain't hear nothing. I ain't hear him say anything.
He's flawed. He has his weaknesses, but he's very ahead of schedule.
He's the best player out of his class.
I was just about to say that, but for some reason people don't want to admit this, but he's right now at least he's the best player out of his class. He's just the best. He's the best player.
Some people right here, like right up here, was saying that Donovan Clingan was the best of the class, and then look what the conversation just was about Donovan Clingan. So, I
mean, I think he's better than Stephon Castle last year.
DC was the best player on his team, respectfully. Like he just was like that. That's what it was.
Clingan was better than him last year. I'm dying on the hill.
You said what?
I think Clingan was better than him last year.
You're nuts.
We don't care. I don't care about PRA with no impact or efficiency.
Clingan couldn't stay on the floor. He averaged like 5.5 fouls per 75. He was literally just out there fouling and going to the bench. All last year.
The defense was much better with him on the court. His rim protection was great, and on a per possession basis, he was better. So that's when you're gonna know there though. I don't know why that matters. We talking about right now.
Yeah, this season you were saying Clingan is better. It was the best player out of class.
It was beginning of the year, but go ahead.
It was probably in the middle. It was like you probably said it at multiple times. I can easily go find the receipts. Like they definitely exist.
Sure, bro.
Bro, I'm glad that people have started to put fucking respect on Stephon Castle's name, bro. Bruce
Is
Brown.
that not Dylan Harper's jersey?
Oh, this is the Harper one?
Yeah.
I can go grab my podcast one.
Ain't know who wanted to blaze today. It was somebody. He just threw both of them on. It don't even matter. Oh man.
But yeah, Spurs, man, they're gonna be. They might. Some people are picking them to go to the finals this year. I think the NBA.
Denver's a bad matchup for them, but if they can make it through the series with Denver, that's enough for me to say they got some experience. That like OKC Spurs series should be like even more exciting than I thought it would be. I might lose some bread on that.
Katie, do you have any thoughts about the series? And
Oh, no. I mean, I think I'll start. No, or that's not go. Honestly, yeah, this series, like it's over. It's there's nothing really more to say. I don't think anybody had this series really being competitive. I had the Blazers winning one game. Thought it would be a gentleman's sweep, and it's looking like it's going to be a gentleman's sweep as of tonight. Just I don't even want to say one thing. I will say the Blazers do have some guys that it's Robert Williams I think is at a resurgence. Even though Kling has been terrible, Robert Williams is at a resurgence. Denny has shown to be solid. Tumani Kamara, like Blazers have a good future. Unfortunately for them, their owner is sabotaging it, and that's really they're probably going to lose Thiago Splitter just because the owner isn't going to pay him. They put like negotiations on hold because they tried to undercut him and what they offered him to make him the head coach. That's unfortunate.
D2 head coach to come coach the team, and he said no because he was getting paid more at his D2 school.
Yeah, like the owner is cheaping out, and that's unfortunate. And it's especially unfortunate because you look at like Denny. We'll see if they even keep Denny around because Denny right now is making like $12 million a year. His contract is a steal, and when he's up for his payday, he's going to want his payday. And the way the owner's acting right now, who knows if they're going to give it to him. So if I'm some teams, I'm looking to keep some cap space open for when Denny's becoming a free agent because that's an example of a guy who's like, I won't say all-star level. I think he made the all-star team, but I think he's probably on a contending team right below all-star level, like Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I was going to say Mikal.
Yeah, like that's a perfect like example. And that's a player you can like snipe because the team just isn't going to pay him.
So if he was on the Warriors instead of like Jimmy Butler, he'd be cheaper for something. Like he gets to the rim and he gets foul shots, and that's exactly what they needed Jimmy Butler for. And with less usage, he's going to play defense, so he'd still give you the value defensively. But we'll see.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you made it this far, we're going to be back when the series are over and stuff like that to talk more about the teams that lost and then predict the second round of the playoffs as well. So thank you for tuning in, and we are out.